I don't say how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist. We will begin with the reminder of the idea of this interaction of what we have called synchronicity in your language in this way, that word, or serendipity, or coincidence, or whatever you wish to call it in that way with your imagination. Synchronicity, the allowance of the simultaneous existence of all that is to manifest as quickly as it can within a linear time frame structure that you have created yourselves to exist within. Synchronicity, the recognition of events occurring, connected in a sense to each other as they need to be connected to each other to allow you to be effortlessly the idea you have chosen to be. Synchronicity, the idea that you may call coincidence, not accidental. But so, think with this is when it's said by many false to properties and relation of idea you know you are, whatever vibration you feel to be true for you. That's how you exercise that carry the next to that with the you have within you of what reality is to you. Always it is an opportunity to know that what you see in your physical reality is a reflection of your beliefs, and therefore, if you do not prefer it, what you see is an opportunity to create the by simulation no situation in you to not have just the positive meaning, negative effect. It is up to you. Are you following along? Yes. It is very simple physics, very simple mechanics. And we would remind you in this way, therefore, that your the connection is when you will be trust for and your reason of still in that you allow rather than your ego soul of it. Your your idea of lives upon your planet that is fractionated into many fragments.
Is that true of all of us?
You all have counterparts, yes. They exist simultaneously in what you recognize to be the time frame of the present. They are exactly the same thing as a past or future life, except they exist at the same time that you do. And all your past lives and your future lives also have counterparts.
Interesting. Several other beings come through several people. Is the mechanism the same way as it works with you and Daryl?
Basically, yes. The definitions may differ a little bit from time to time, from individual to individual, from understanding to understanding, from purpose to purpose. But the basic mechanism is the same.
Okay. One quick other question. Is lust judgment?
In a sense.
In what sense? Can you...
It is the judgment of desire.
So, to say that lust is good or bad is just another judgment upon a judgment.
Yes. If you have decided to create the idea of a judgment of desire, then obviously you are creating it for a reason, because you want to look at it for some reason. It gives you the opportunity to decide whether you prefer that particular judgment or not.
Okay. Is lust for life and beauty and spirituality?
Now you are simply in this way choosing another definition with the same tonality ascribed to it. What you are now describing in that way is simply the recognition of your own ecstasy. Lust for life is not negative judgment. It is not lust in the negative sense.
Okay, so what we're down to fine-tuning what kind of judgment is detrimental.
All judgment is negative.
All judgment is
preference is positive.
Okay, so if I say Bashar is a beautiful being, is that
it depends upon the reasons and the purposes for why you have concocted that equation. It can be a judgment. It can be simply a preference or a statement. It is always a perception on your part. And it is you.
Bashar?
Individual state those who make some all of that motor leading. I'll each of me to tune in to.
So I ate as that was solid. There's a variety of ways to look at it. One is that this is a brick wall and I'm supposed to go a different direction.
All right. It is only a reflection and a very simple symbol of the idea of feeling like there are obstacles in your path to impede your movement in what you perceive to be the typical forward direction. But as we have said, and as we know you know, anything that you perceive to be an obstacle is not so much an obstacle or a wall, but a sign leading you in an unexpected direction.
Well, now, I was in reverse when I hit this object, so go forward. How does that cover the interpretation?
In this way, you may feel that you are compromising yourself by feeling like you might have to back out of situations rather than in this way standing up for yourself clearly without needing the opportunity of creating conflict.
Well, that's an interesting comment because I was just allowing this entire scenario to take place with my agent and with my car, and it turned out that I didn't have to back out of it because my agent did.
All right.
So it changed the course of events by him changing the agreement.
Yes.
It was real convenient. I really just allowed it to happen.
Yes.
Another question. You said that crying is centering from the negative side.
Yes.
And I understand that. Children, now in my experience in this society, children frequently will cry when their demands or expectations are not met. And do you view this also as centering?
In a sense, and also understand that even though you may consider them to be very young, children in your society learn very quickly what gets them what they need and the structure they have been born into.
Right. That was the next part of my question. Later on, parents sometimes will try to shut the kid up or whatever by giving in to his demands, even though it may not serve their integrity or the kid's integrity. And so the kid learns that crying gets his way, which, to my way of seeing it, says that now the crying is no longer centering, but some other kind of tool.
In a sense, yes. It is a reflection of what the child has already learned about the parents. It is a reflection to the parents about what the parents have already taught the child in terms of behavior in this society. For recognize again, there are many things that you may consider to be almost unnoticeable, very subtle signals. The child will pick up on them immediately and very, very blatantly as to what disharmonies do exist around it.
Can you give an example of that?
Simply in this way, you may find that a child will be very telepathically in tune to tensions, abrasions within the family in that way, and maybe simply reflecting the reactions going on in the family. Bowling.
Yes, I do.
It will have already picked up all of the signals very early and will immediately begin to be a reflection of the type of atmosphere that pervades the family.
Okay, I'm involved with a woman who has a daughter, 10 years old, and she and I, the daughter and I, are interacting in, how can I describe it? In a way that reflects what you said about children pushing, having parents to push against. She's not my natural daughter, but in fact I've known her for about 6 months, but there seems to be a relationship where she's doing a lot of pushing.
All right.
My approach to it is being very firm in terms of my own integrity,
Yes.
not giving her slack where the slack would show her that she gets things without giving things and all that kind of stuff.
Then you are fulfilling your part of the bargain.
I believe that I am, yes. It's pretty abrasive. It can be quite abrasive, although I do feel that I'm seeing in the last week or so what I would say would be positive change on the part of the child.
All right. An individual who has chosen to lock themselves deeply within limitation in a time stream may require a little bit of time to readjust. If you are willing to enjoy every moment, you will not need patience for the idea of the circumstance, but will be willing to allow them to take as much time as they need.
That is true. That is true. Do you have any other words of wisdom on this particular situation with me and her?
Simply the continuance of unconditional love and the willingness to recognize that you are both co-creating this relationship for your own personal reasons and you will benefit from the recognition of those reasons.
Okay, just for my information, now, I'm not real consciously sensitive to the telepathic communication between she and I, although the feeling that I have is that I am being of service to her in that she does want to, she does want reflections of the positive route that she is, and she's putting up a lot of resistance. However, I feel I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to say right thing.
You are being true to you.
Yeah.
All right. Then you are, by definition, the person she has attracted into this co-agreement. Be yourself, and you will be fulfilling your half of the bargain.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
You.
I want to tell you and everyone I feel wonderful. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the trip last week. And I had a question because I was talking to Steve about the title of the tape last week, and
right.
I thought you might have said field trip as opposed to field trip.
All right.
For the title.
It's up to you.
So okay. I like field trips, but it's just for the catalog. I thought
All right.
I'd check it out with you. So you're saying, yeah, okay, fine.
Thank you very much. Sure.
Bashar.
Yes.
A couple questions. One, in front of human vision, there seems to be these geometric shapes that float by and avoid direct contact. They sort of move off to the side. Could you articulate on that?
There can be a few reasons for these ideas. Primarily, there are different levels of your consciousness that from time to time, when you are not guarding them so closely, will allow you to expand and wander into different levels of physical and non-physical reality. On the basic fundamental level of the primal energy out of which all your physical reality is created, sometimes you can translate the perception of this energy into the basic fundamental template or geometric design that would represent the mathematical relationships of all of the vibratory patterns within the energy field. It will simply translate into geometry as you understand it in a third-dimensional sense. Does that clarify the idea?
Yeah, often as a kid, I would lay in bed and I would feel ideas as shapes.
Yes.
You know, I'd take things like joy, and it would come to me that it has this sort of curve to it and such.
Yes. You are simply gleaning the most basic conceptual materiality of the form, rather than the specificity of needing to break it down into this type of very specific physical reality.
Okay.
They are like the pre-concepts before they divide and restructure themselves into something more complex.
Right. Okay. Another thing. I experienced a knowingness taking the 120 plus elements, chemical elements of this world, and likening those to the primary elementals, actual who's, from which all reality or things break down and alchemize and combine into. And
those are only symbols, and they only represent one doorway. It is not inevitable that every member of your society should perceive that the breakdown or the build-up of your physical reality proceeds from those particular symbols. It is one way of looking at it.
Okay.
It is to some degree archetypal, but there are variances far and wide.
The actual elements, taking gold, tantalum, etc., are those even the actual element gold, is that symbolic of a who outside?
It is more symbolic of a what, a state of being. And in this way, again, joyous synchronicity that you should choose that one. For recognized in this way, we have been discussing the idea of gold much of late. For it represents the element that is the stasis and the transference in this way of the universal energy into a form that specifically allows you to perceive immortality or eternalness within your physical being.
Okay, so they're qualities rather than who's?
Yes, states of being. For recognize, as you already know, what you call gold does not corrode.
Right. I had much attraction to a metal called tantalum, and the qualities of that seem to be fixed in that sense as a beingness.
Yes,
but
tantalum, in this way, in our perception, is sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
to certain types of etheric energies from outside the normal environment of your atmospheric planet. It will find many uses in what you call space technology. Right. It is to some degree connected to some of your planetary states of being, particularly the ones that you have attached significance to with regard to some of your or subconscious realms. It is archetypically significant of exploration also within the dimensions of your planet itself. Everything that is subterranean, to some degree, has an attachment to that as well, as it is a different dimension of existence that is also of a different atmosphere than the actual surface of your planet. Thank you. Okay.
Bashar.
Are you through?
Yes.
Good.
Earlier you were talking about centering.
Thanks.
My attention is stuck on it. I've never heard of the term and I don't know what you mean by it.
Thank you. Centering is the idea most often attributed in your society to simply being at rest, being at peace, being in the know of yourself, going with your flow, feeling life to be effortless, moving with yourself, walking in time to your tune. That is being centered. Knowing that you create your reality and recognize everything around you to be a projection from you in that way. Knowing that you are self-empowered to create anything you desire in your reality. You follow me?
Yes.
That is being in balance. It is having all the different ideas you have created to be different levels or polarities in your consciousness to be blended and balanced to allow there to be, in this way, a stillness and an infinite acceleration at the same time. Knowingness is centering. Trust is centering. Joy, ecstasy, is the expression of the centered being that you are, the being that contains all possible realities. You follow me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Yes.
When Daryl cuts out, does he actually become you? Do you blend?
There is a blending, but in this way it is in the formation of what you would call a third identity. I do not become him, he does not become me. We become a different idea altogether.
I see. Does he cease to exist as an individual consciousness?
Of course not.
Okay.
All things exist eternally, in their own terms, on their own right. But the definition of the reality you are experiencing is becoming something new. And so, what will be recognized as an individual in that way, along with all the rest of you, will simply redefine what you are as an individual and include many different probable ways of constructing yourself to be an individual.
I got you. What specifically happens to Daryl as he goes in this trance state? Can you give me a little more?
In this way, there is the entering into what you would call the dimension of imagination totally.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
The experience of the concept rather than the specificity.
So it becomes an idea form.
It's,
I got you. To what degree does stimulus response mechanisms in terms of one having made a recording or imprint of something that happened in the past being stimulated by a present perception, to what degree does this actually occur?
it occurs to whatever degree the individual being exposed to it has a percentage of belief in the process.
So it's proportional to the belief.
Of course, everything is.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
That is why all tools are valid.
Mm-hmm.
But it always depends upon the belief.
So the belief structure enables one to utilize the tool.
Yes.
Okay.
And the tool is always created from the belief structure. So they are automatically in synchronous harmony.
Right. So one could invite people to believe in a particular structure and create tools out of that.
Yes, and if they choose to go along with it, then it will have value for them in that way. And that is why we say, always trust that your imagination is always in step with providing you with whatever methodology you require for any particular process you wish to undertake. For your imagination is always in synchronous harmony with the being that you are and can only provide you with a method that will work for you by definition. Otherwise, it would be someone else's imagination.
Right. My imagination, for instance, enables me to create the fourth density ice cream store.
Tasty, isn't it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon! Yes, then you.
I have a dear friend who has a condition
A
called...
dear friend.
Yeah, a dear friend who has a condition called dyslexia.
Are
you familiar with that?
You almost didn't get that out, did you?
Appropriately, she said.
All right. They have slydexia.
Yeah. Anyway, he said that he has managed to transform it to a certain degree, but it still occurs, and I've not had any contact with that idea other than he mentioned it to me. Is there anything that we can discuss, or you can tell me that I can perhaps tell him?
It is an art form of the unexpected. It is a method for destabilizing the rigid structures of communication. And in this way, allowing or inviting or allowing there to be an opportunity for individuals to recognize that they understand perfectly well what an individual means, whether they are using the proper forms of communication or not.
Oh, in other words, in reading something, if he reads the words backwards, he can still understand it regardless.
And in this way, it is also an opportunity for you to recognize that all levels of communication in this way are simply arbitrary labels. And in this way, also, it is an opportunity to recognize that one does not exist within a rigid structure, and is exploring many different ideas that the so-called dis-ease can allow them to discover that someone embedded in the rigid structure may not.
Yeah, that's interesting, because he said that, like when he was younger, of course, that it was, he was considered a bit slow and not as bright and things like that.
Allow your friend to consider it mastery of a foreign language. He can learn what you would call proper language if he wishes to, as long as he does not invalidate the language he already knows.
That's great. Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, Bashar. For the purpose, for the purpose of creating what for the future and for the past, let's say that the past exists, okay?
Let's say. The past exists.
All right. I'm coming to this.
Hypothetically, yes.
That's what I meant.
Yes, I know.
Okay. If one wanted to regain or have full recall of his psychic ability, what would be, let's say, the system or something that it could do, or
May I ask you all a question?
Yes. Go ahead.
How long are you going to assume that there is one background of truth against which all things are to be compared as being better than something else? When are you going to trust your imagination to supply you, as we have already said, with all the methodologies you require to contain and be any idea you want to be in present?
Yesterday.
So what is the method? You tell me. Since it is your method, provided by your imagination, what do you feel would excite you to the vibrational frequency that would allow you to know you are always psychic? By definition, you are alive, you are psychic.
That's why I know that.
All right, then, act like it. And you will be psychic. Exactly as you need to.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Yes. Thank you. That's very good. Thank you.
Bashar.
One moment.
Yeah, earlier I just had experienced 2 episodes of losing my voice and felt like there was energy coming out of my throat chakra. I was wondering what...
It is not uncommon again. In this way, many of you, as you increase the connections to the ideas of opening yourselves as lines, as channels for communication from your higher selves and other consciousness in that way, will find there to be experimental, let us say, testings of the energy. At times it may leave you speechless. But it is only temporary. Go with the flow, and you will acclimate that much more rapidly. It is all part and parcel of the fourth density transformational symptomatic fevers, in a sense.
Experimental testings.
In other words, you are allowing yourself to let as much of that energy through as you are comfortable with, until you acclimate to it and regain your sense of control. Then you will take more and more and more, until you become used to it to the point where you will not have to lose touch with anything to have mastery over it all.
Okay.
It is connected to anything you desire to communicate to anyone else in that way. Your own understanding of your abilities to communicate. And your willingness to recognize that also within silence is much information. All right?
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about an associate of mine who is, you and Daryl have also been associated with this person. This person's name is Anika. She is a channel who has been giving us, a group of us, information pretty much about our destinies. And she says this information is unverifiable through other channels. Can you tell me if that's true or not? I mean, true regarding the whole group.
Is this a joke?
I am really curious about this, the information that I've been getting from this person.
If the individual says it is unverifiable through another entity, then how would me saying yes and or no do anything for you if you have that belief?
No, I don't have that belief.
Then why did you ask?
Because I didn't know.
Didn't know what?
Whether it was or was not. I wanted to get some information about that particular body of data.
But if I said one thing or another, how would that tell you whether it was or wasn't?
I don't know.
What do you feel about the idea of the giving of others' destinies?
About the idea
of being told what your destiny is.
I don't really know. I haven't thought about it that much. My destiny hasn't been told to me.
Now, understand this. You are always telling yourself what your own destiny is. Another individual can sense what an individual has told themselves or chosen for their so-called destiny.
That's what I mean.
Yes. But in this way, it is only a reflection of a sensing of what the individuals being talked to have chosen.
Yes.
And in this way, it means, in a sense, it is within your control. Now, the overall destiny is the free will of your higher consciousness.
Right.
How you fulfill the idea of your so-called destiny is up to your physiological consciousness here. There can be sensings of what those so-called destinies are. But in this way, recognize, the telling of destinies is nothing but the most generalized of ideas, and any specifics cannot be predicted. For the specifics of how you fulfill your self-chosen destiny is up to you. Okay. So destinies can be sensed in a general way.
Yeah, reflected.
Yes.
Okay. I want to know, this person says through a channeling that the process of the people who are in the group will be accelerated tremendously.
If they believe so, obviously, yes.
All right. Okay, so all it takes actually is a belief
yes.
in that.
Your faith. Sound familiar? Is what makes the difference. It is not your faith in someone else.
No.
It is your trust with yourself and your relationship to all that is.
So it's not actually the physical blending of the energies of the group. that would carry that off.
Oh, in a sense, because you have created yourselves to be a linked mentality within a particular energy field. Yes, there is that effect. But first comes the belief that that effect is real.
Okay.
Then you derive the benefit of the acceleration.
Gotcha.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
I have an additional question about the same person, Anika. Do you have a perception of what consciousness or entity is coming through that?
We do not, in this way, label or recommend or verify or judge. And in this way, simply recognize every individual that presents themselves in service in that way always attracts the individuals that need to interact with those individuals for whatever reason.
Thank you.
Yes, but I understand that. I wasn't asking you to judge, label, or et cetera, but whether, for example, you describe yourself as coming from a particular place as a Sani, and there's a Chapap who comes from Sirius, and I wondered if you had a perception of the origin point or nature of the energy coming through that person.
Let me put it this way in another sense. The reason I answered you as I did is because there are, in your terms, controversies within many different people about exactly what it is that is coming through.
I see. So you would choose not to be a participant in that controversy right now.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
For the way it is the way it serves.
Right.
And different individuals will have a different definition. Those different definitions are what serves them for now.
Great.
Many of us don't want to recognize any definition. We'd rather be told.
That is your habit.
Yes.
Thank you.
John.
Good.
If, as I understand, the imagination of the individual determines whether it's going to be positive or negative, in a sense, is it not feasible, as has been suggested by some people, that there could be advanced civilizations to this one that would have perhaps negative purposes, in the sense of maybe...
In what way would you label them advanced, if that is the case?
Well, let's say that they would be advanced in as far as they could perhaps communicate through channels here or certain individuals here.
It is not likely. For recognize the idea is only and can only be positive and negative with agreement. Now, it is not impossible that an individual in what you would call your society would form the belief structure that will allow them to believe that they can form an association with that type of an individual, and so they can. But in this way, recognize the basic fundamental definition of what channeling is, for the most part, is a positive idea. In terms of the ability to even form an association with another individual, it involves the idea of freedom of choice, which a negative individual or consciousness or entity is unlikely to want to grant.
I understand. I have another question, if I may.
Yes.
Getting back to a subject that intrigues me is the idea of having 4 or 5 sub-personalities or individuals.
They are not sub-personalities.
Okay.
Unless you mean them to be sub-personalities of the oversoul.
Well, let's just say associated with an individual.
Yes.
In whatever,
Yes.
regard that. Okay.
Fragments of the oversoul.
Okay, that is something that was real to me, and I, in fact, experienced the communication from an individual that I felt was very much on that level.
Yes.
It got to a point where I was actually afraid of some of the communication that was coming in.
Why?
Because of the reality difference.
All right. But how can there, by definition, be in that way a reality difference if you perceive the communication? Obviously, in your reality is contained the potential of that existence. So on whatever level you will contain it, that is only the level to which the communication can occur. You do not need to create a cessation of the communication through fear. You can create a cessation of the communication to the recognition that only as much of the communication as needs to fit the idea you have of yourself will be able to filter in anyway.
Right. But at that point, well, let me ask this. I got the idea there would be a benefit from continuing that communication. Is that
All
so?
right. Then that is the idea and the reality you will create.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. You have done it. Sure.
Bashar,
Guys.
I was going to ask you about the energy vortexes on the Earth.
Guys.
Say, I heard that you were saying that there was a way that we could use the energy technologically. How can we do that and use it physically?
You can stand in the middle of the vortex, which will open you to all dimensions of experience within creation. You can then be opened to a mirror and a reflection of all that you are, and you can take out of the experience what you wish to, and add it to the idea of yourself to change who you are and change your reality. It is like going into a possibility pool.
We are in vortex.
Now, in all reality, they are anywhere you happen to be. But the ones of concentration in this way are many different places. There is a very, what you would call, strong one in what you call your Malibu area. Also in what you call your Sedona area of Arizona.
So does this mean that we could run cars off of this if we wanted to, say, instead of using current energy sources that...
There is a way to tap it in that sense. But I was under the assumption, as you said, that you were referring to non-technological applications.
Okay.
There are aspects of your electromagnetic field in this way that taps the energy of the relationships of the vortices to one another. The entire Earth crystal, you can run all of your electrical conveyances off of that energy.
Off of the Earth energy
Yes.
itself?
It has already been attempted and suppressed many times.
And that's electromagnetic energy, right?
Yes.
In a sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And the resonant fields of your planet in this way. The operational field of approximately 7.5 cycles per second of your Earth.
7.5?
Yes, approximately.
Okay, thank you.
In this way, speed of light divided by the circumference of your planet equals the frequency in cycles per second. You follow me?
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, you.
Following a question the other gentleman asked, in the raw materials,
yes,
the entity speaks of two ways to contact intelligent infinity. One is service through others, and one is service for self. And it allows or concedes or suggests that from our perspective, we would perceive service toward others as something positive, and service toward self as something negative. Civilizations that are much more, if you will, technologically advanced, and perhaps in some ways spiritually advanced. They've contacted intelligent infinity. They may even be able to be aware of being able to do things such as channeling, going to other places without their bodies, that we are not aware that we can do, and in that sense, more spiritually advanced, which are
It is not really advancement, but I take your meaning. Go ahead.
And which are civilizations which can do all those things, and in that sense, advanced or different from, developed differently, who are oriented towards service towards self, and therefore negative from our perception.
Yes.
And okay, so that's a statement to something that exists in the universe.
Oh yes.
Okay. Bashar?
You.
You said that suicide is the only act which is not aligned with the destiny created by the higher consciousness.
Basically, yes.
I'm wondering if there's a situation where a higher consciousness would want to find out what it's like to commit suicide, and therefore...
Again, in that way, from the point of view of the oversoul, nothing is lost as information, and it does learn from everything in that way. And that, to some degree, can be a point, and can be an experience in that way. Simply as we have said, 99.999% of the time, that is not the case.
I see. So it's possible that this would be the last act that the oversoul has chosen, or the higher consciousness has chosen, in this 0.0001% of chances.
Yes. And in this way, recognize, of course, that all death is basically suicide. Since
Right.
you do choose to die.
Okay. Another question relating to your environment. Are any of the other planets in your planetary system inhabited at your density level?
No.
Are they inhabited at other density levels?
Yes. As are most planetary systems.
Inhabited in various density levels?
Yes.
I see. Are you in contact with those other civilizations?
Yes.
Can you describe some of those?
They are in various stages of what you would call evolution in this way. Some are not unlike your own in many different ways. One is relatively different in the sense that its entire existence is based upon one stream or equation that is being pursued and has been pursued for what you would call hundreds of your years. How to express a planetary experiment, a planetary focus of thought, a planetary search in one mode or line of thought.
Can you describe this mode or line of thought?
Not in so many of your words exactly, except that what they are attempting to do is explore one at a time each and every possible aspect and facet as a mass consciousness.
Aspect of what?
Of all they can imagine, but one at a time.
That's very interesting.
In other words, a complete cessation of diversity as individuals, but increase in diversity as to what the mass consciousness will experience at any given moment.
I see.
One after another.
Interesting. How is the planet that is closest to us similar? You say it's similar in certain ways. How is that similar?
It has similar ideas of approach to life.
Technological or?
Yes, basically. Although what you would call their relation to the universe is more, let us say, naturalistic than religious.
Okay. Well, perhaps you could tell us the differences. Maybe that would help me understand how they're different, or how they're the same. Tell me how they're different, then I'll understand how they're the same.
Let us say in this way, as an example, they have the idea of gathering together as you might for what you would call a religious ceremony, but they recognize in this way that the actual exercise will be more of a direct connection to their planet, rather than the idea of a deifying of any symbolic individual.
Okay. Is their technology similar? Do they have ground vehicles that use petroleum type products?
Some, to some degree, although their motive power at this time is mostly what you would call steam.
Oh, I see. What?
But highly refined applications of steam.
What generates the heat to generate the steam?
An element in their planet that you would call something akin to radioactive.
Like little nuclear reactors?
To some degree, not exactly, but to some degree.
How is it different?
It is simply a different frequency-generated element in that way, and does not have exactly the properties of what you would recognize to be the radioactive element on your planet. The ionic structure will be different in that way. And only in certain circumstances is it, in your terms, lethal.
I see. So
it can be rendered impotent in that way through the introduction of different elements and materials within it.
Okay. Is there an analogy on this planet in the elemental sense of what this substance is?
Tellurium.
Okay. Interesting. Do they have a name for themselves, or do you identify them by a name?
We do not create names at this time, but only the recognition of frequency vibration.
Do they have a name for themselves?
It would mostly translate as a symbolic interpretation Perhaps you would call them the planners.
Oh, that's interesting. Do they communicate with language or
Yes,
telepathically?
language.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Whoa. All right, all right.
Thank you very much. I want to get back to this thing about service to self.
Nice.
That's great.
How synchronistic of you.
That is exactly what should happen to me.
Oh, very good.
I have been playing with the idea of servicing myself. When I first started on my venture 10 years ago, it was like I wanted to go out and save the world and everybody else, and and then as I got a little more knowledge, I began to understand that I don't know enough to go out and tell everybody else how to do their things because my thing
You never will.
Okay. Well, in the process, I'm finding that I have been much more of service to other people as I have gained more selfishness to get my own act together.
But in this way, recognize that the way to easiest allow the universe to serve you is to be of service to others.
Well, that's where the conflict is.
Why is there a conflict?
I'm not sure if it is a conflict or if it's just a process of co-fusing or integrating.
Right. What do you perceive to be happening?
Well, I perceive that I'm going through a slow integrating process.
If you say so.
Well, an integrating process, whether it's slow or not, it's irrelevant at this point. Anyway, the conflict is having to choose over helping somebody else to do something and my own desires.
Now, one moment. Do not confuse taking care of yourself as being selfish. Understand that you can only be of service to others when you love yourself enough to allow yourself to, in your terms, take advantage of the opportunities that are automatically provided to you so you will be stable. It is not being self-sacrificing that helps them. It is being of service to them by being someone who knows they are stable enough to be of service. No one is going to receive help from you if you deprive yourself of the things that are required to allow you to exist in comfort.
Okay.
When you attract the opportunities to you automatically with your synchronicity, to take advantage of those opportunities to allow yourself to be the person you are in that way, to love yourself, to care for yourself, to respect yourself and nurture yourself so that you can be strong enough to be of service to others. It goes hand in hand. It is not an exclusion principle. We're not talking about self-sacrifice.
Okay, well, apparently that's what I'm really looking at.
All right. Very good.
Just an example. If a person, say I have a friend who...
You have a friend.
Who needs some money. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Okay. Who needs money, and I need money too.
Yes.
But say I have plastic in this society, credit cards. Even though I don't have any cash, I could always go to the till, the plastic, and get money. And that puts...
Then simply recognize within the situation what is the integrity of the situation. Are they coming to you, being attracted to you, to be given an opportunity to function within their integrity in this way? Or is it for the purpose of allowing you to know that you can assist them in that way without the idea of depleting because you know you are abundant? What is the reason for the interaction? Are they asking you because they are unwilling to be responsible for themselves and are attracting themselves to someone who reminds them that they must be responsible for themselves in that way?
If I see this as the other individual, say, being responsible.
Yes.
Okay. And
then they have attracted themselves to you to allow there to be the interaction in this way of your assistance to them, A, perhaps to assist them with the actual physical money in that way, but also B, to assist them with the ideas of sharing methodologies and opportunities for how they can allow themselves to be in a situation where they will not have to ask you.
Okay, well, I'm not as concerned about the other person as I am right now myself.
But why should you ever be in that way concerned? Simply recognize that if you are recognizing the integrity of the situation, then you know that if you have also attracted an individual in that way, and you know the result of the interaction will be within your integrity, that you will give them assistance physically, monetarily, then you automatically know that if all is being done within the integrity of the situation, you will automatically be replenished.
Okay, that was exactly what I did.
Okay.
That was where I was coming from.
Then you will be replenished automatically, unless you choose to worry about whether you will or not.
Now, I used that example because it was a physical thing that I could grasp easily. Now, in relationships, I'm finding that my selfishness is really becoming, I'm becoming very different.
All right. Again, it does not have to be negative selfishness to simply stand for the belief you know yourself to be. If it is within integrity, which means you are not worried about never having enough for yourself.
And that also relates to losing or gaining friends or what have you.
You do not lose.
Right. Well, for lack of a better term.
A better term, all right.
Okay. All right, I guess I'll have to explore it some more.
All right. Thank you. Very much. One moment.
Can you give me again, please, the difference between faith and trust?
There really isn't any.
I didn't think so. Okay.
They are both reflections of the mechanism of your knowingness.
Okay. And they are both purely created. One creates trust by simply creating trust.
By acting that way, yes.
By acting. Very good. Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you.
Bashar.
You.
I was wondering if you could explain away how it is.
Explain away.
Well. How can space-time concept exist if time is an illusion? How can you understand that in terms of logic?
Logic? Any frame of reference that you are in is going to be experienced as real. It is an illusion from another point of view, not from the reference of being in the illusion. Is that logical enough?
That just says everything's a relative reality.
Exactly.
We have mechanisms or ways of explaining through analytic thought.
But understand, any tool you will devise to explain a system is created within the system it explains and proves nothing. It only reinforces the system out of which the tool was created, by definition. It has to. Is that logical enough? In other words, you get the result you design the experiment for.
Well, how is it I can't exist? How is it I'm not consciously aware right now of timelessness?
You can be.
How can I do that?
By existing in the now and not thinking about the past or the future in that way. Not making a connection to the past or the future, not assuming that the past is what creates the present, because it doesn't.
That involves a whole series of belief changes.
Of course. That is the whole idea. Believing is seeing. What you believe, so shall it be your reality. That is exactly what it involves. You have hit the nail squarely on the head. But that is all this reality is. A belief. You follow me?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, all right. You can have a good time exploring the many different beliefs you can allow yourself to use to create different realities. Because this is the transformational age in which many more things are now possible and probable, because you are removing yourselves from the cycle of limitation and judgment and forgetfulness.
All right.
You are remembering who and what you are.
So then, in changing your belief systems and experiencing, for example, the now, that it's the only reason I would have trouble is because I believe that it's
difficult.
Right.
Very good. Mm-hmm. You understand this very well.
Do you have an easy way to do this?
Yes. Stop assuming that you need anything easier than what you have already done to do it. In other words, you are still assuming that imagination is less real than physical reality, and that when you imagine a concept, you have to do something to make it real, when it is already real. If you can imagine it, it is real. It is only your assumption that you need to still do something to make it real. That is what creates a time-laden process before the idea will physically manifest. As soon as you understand that having the concept is not the beginning of a process, but the end of a process, then you will allow, not make, allow your reality to begin to reflect the concept you now know to be your reality. Simply because you could perceive it means you are it. You cannot perceive what you are not. You have to be on the same frequency to perceive an idea. You have to be that idea in order to perceive it, by definition. So if you can conceive of it, you are that reality. To whatever extent that will fulfill your overall agreement with the mass consciousness. In other words, you will not step outside the boundaries of the overall game you have agreed to play with everyone else. You can, but then you won't be here anymore. It is not that you cannot step outside it.
Now that makes sense.
All right. Thank you.
Bashar.
Thank you.
You.
Is there a connection with the imagination and then creating it into physical reality? The emotional
Trust, ecstasy, excitement, action, curiosity. Excitement is your physical translation of the vibration that represents the path you chose to be. Follow it. That is how. You know that when you are having a good time, you do not create the passage of time. It is not that you do not sense a time which is passing by anyway. You do not create time. That is why you are not cognizant of it when you are busy having fun. Because ecstasy, excitation, and enjoyment are being in the center point, are being completely in the now. And being in the now allows you to experience things as one eternal moment. Where did the time go? It did not go anywhere. You just didn't create it. You are your own universe. That does not mean another individual will not have sensed their creation of the passage of time simultaneously. They will reinforce for you to reorient you back to the reality you still insist upon participating within, that 3.5 hours have passed, just so you won't lose track. But you did not create those 3.5 hours. If it seemed like 5 minutes to you, that is all you actually created. 5 minutes. Follow me.
Yes.
It is literal.
So when we say we want something, as we passingly do at times, but there is no excitement no body sensation, and
It
we
is
know
a
that
good
it doesn't
indication.
occur,
Yay.
then we know we really haven't set up the dynamics then of creation.
Trust that the ideas that you know you are the ones that vibrate, that resonate within you most strongly. And you can take it for granted, therefore, that the ones that do excite you are the ones that represent the course of your path. Only when you judge those situations to be invalid, silly, ridiculous, worthless, not worth doing, not a way to make a living, do you ignore the excitement that is often very blatantly there, telling you that what you have imagined you want to do is what you can do. If no one else does it, be the first. Someone has to.
I have one other question. I just had a major portion of my property move, separate, earth movement.
Yes.
And I know and accept that everything that occurs is part of what I've attracted.
Then how does it serve you?
I'd like to. Could you shed some light on that? It's difficult for me to see.
It's difficult for me to see.
Yes, it has been difficult for me to see.
It's difficult for me to see. Now that is a belief. Do you enjoy that belief?
No.
All right. What belief do you prefer? May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
It is easy for me to see.
It is easy for me to see.
Oh.
Yes, that I prefer.
All right. Repeat after me. It is easy for me to see.
It is easy for me to see
how this event
serves
me. Really? How does it serve you?
Well, it may have a little bit of something to do with letting go. But
all right.
Okay.
Removing attachments.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Need it be more complex than that?
No, I don't think so.
Does that fulfill your innate sense of how you can glean a service from the event and keep going with your life?
Absolutely.
Can you recognize that life is the only process you need to create all of the understanding of anything that occurs in your life?
Yes.
Keep living and you will understand it all.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Yes!
I'm in a state of excitement over something you said a little earlier, and I would like your help in pursuing it. You talked about the vortex in Malibu. I would physically go stand in that as soon as possible. I would like your direction. Will you help me pinpoint how I get to it?
Anywhere in that area.
The entire Malibu?
You will find it. Follow your intuition.
I've always had a soft spot for that. I love it in that area.
Then you already have found it.
Thank you. I'll go back.
Guys.
I have a question about your relationship with Daryl. If you're Daryl's future self,
so to speak,
and there's, it's kind of hard to phrase it, but it's easy to phrase it.
You learn so very quickly. You continue.
If you are Daryl's future self, then Daryl must be like
my past self. Just being logical.
Then are you two both creatively like generating, co-creating at the same time each other?
How simple the answers are. Yes, it is trust allowing the dimension of the imagination on both of our parts to be really real. You see, the interaction that is taking place, that you perceive to be taking place, between myself and you is going on for me within my imagination, but since I know my imagination is real, I know the interaction is taking place.
Whoa. Yeah.
You follow me?
I follow you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is this whole
You.
premise of material.
So what about your
Right.
previous explanation about this link being based upon computer and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? What you just said about imagination
Yes.
would seem to eliminate the need for all of that complexity.
In a basic fundamental sense, yes. But we are also still a civilization whose definition has many specificities within it. So the idea within our imagination is that we utilize what we call the computer to assist and accelerate and boost our ability to do this. That is the product still of our imagination.
You're still having to trust that once you get to the computer that it's getting to us and all that stuff is going on, right?
Yes. We do recognize that the computer is a projection in that way, but we are still a civilization that uses that symbol. It has purposes for us, and it has purposes in allowing us to reflect to you certain ideas that are, in your terms, easier to understand. So we maintain a certain level of existence in our way so that we can communicate with other civilizations and they can perceive us in a certain way, so we will not be so different from you we could not communicate with you.
I understand that last, but it seems there is a disjunction.
How so?
Well, you have imagination, which
yes.
I'm very comfortable with the idea that imagination is real and is the most powerful tool we have.
You are creating your physical reality with it. We are creating our physical reality with it.
But why not, since imagination is a senior element to the thing that imagination creates,
yes.
Why not simply go directly from imagination to Darryl and not bother with the via of the computer on your planet?
Why not stop being in this reality right now?
Well, I can.
Yes, you can. And so can I. But obviously, since you have chosen to be here, and we have chosen to be where we are, then the method we are using serves the purpose of the interaction at this time. That is not to say it will not evolve.
Would it be possible right now, as we understand now, for you to dispense with a computer and simply do this just with imagination? Or would there be, is the computer providing a link between your density
in a sense,
and
yes.
ours?
Yes. And again, it is not that that cannot also be circumvented simply by imagination. But simply in this way, we must take into account in our factors the overall belief structures within your mass consciousness. The idea of the direct interaction is usually what occurs with what you would perceive to be the serious energy and the physical channel before you. The serious energy does not use the idea of a computer. But as you can also see in that way, the energy level of the serious entity is something that the physical channel you call Darryl cannot tolerate for very long.
Right.
Because it is that much more of a magnitude beyond the ideas you are familiar with. That is why we are doing what we are doing in the way we are doing it. To facilitate the ease of accommodation according to the overall belief structures of your society. And the physical channel, of course.
Okay, but is it merely that you, where you're physically apparent, are imagining this interaction and therefore it's occurring and it's real? Or are you in some way traveling like astral projection and being here with us astrally?
No.
Not the latter but the former?
Yes. Now I can and have, in your terms, physically traveled to your planet. In your terms, I know you physically exist.
I see.
In this way, simply, I am describing that what you would refer to as the mechanism of this interaction is that it would be the same as if you were to simply lie down, close your eyes, and imagine having a conversation with a group of individuals on another planet and take it for granted that is real and it is going on.
As we went to your spaceship last week.
Yes.
But when you came here physically, did you come with your body?
Yes,
or
in my spacecraft.
In your spacecraft.
Yes.
Can you travel in what we call on this planet astrally?
Yes.
So to go without your body but still perceive it?
Oh, yes.
How does the serious energy come through, astrally or through their imagination?
Now, more again the idea of imagination, but imagination to them is something quite different, and it encompasses many of the levels you might call astral and etheric, and many different other levels altogether. Because to them, materiality is very unreal.
Thank you.
Bashar. Briefly.
Briefly?
Okay.
Unless
you choose to continue after your break.
That would be fine with me.
All right. Then you may all take a short break. All right, I'll say. Amen. Continue.
Thank you. There's an individual that I talked to. His name is Dr. Kirk. And I was wondering if he was outside of myself, or if he was, as you say, that relationship with Daryl is, if that's how our relationship is. Is he an entity separate from myself?
In a sense, now understand in this way, there is the opportunity to see within you a reflection that all aspects of your consciousness that you can be in contact with can represent portions of yourself and at the same time have their own reality. In what way does it serve you to feel either case?
It had never occurred to me before that it would be part of my imagination. But that just thought came to me because of what you were saying earlier about you and Daryl. I had always thought he was totally outside of myself.
Understand, something that is a portion of your higher consciousness is not something just within your imagination. You follow me?
It's his imagination too.
What we are saying in this way is that your imagination is real.
Yeah, I understand that.
All right.
I understand that.
How does it serve you to relate to the consciousness as something within you? How does it serve you to relate to it as something outside of you, so to speak?
I don't know about inside of me. Outside of me, he can heal, and I like that.
Is there something different about what you would call his medical technology than from what you recognize to be the medical technology of your planet?
Oh, absolutely.
Does it involve mostly the idea of light and sound or vibrations?
Yes. Yes. It's all it all comes through his. The surgery is all done through his hands.
All right. In this way, therefore, does the surroundings, the natural environment of this individual seem not unlike your typical reality, but somehow different?
Yes.
Then recognize in a way that you can view the aspect of the consciousness as other consciousness, but in what you would call a parallel Earth dimension. You follow me?
Yes.
And in that sense, an aspect of your future self, as you are making a link up in that way, to a portion of your higher consciousness that allows itself to have a life in a parallel reality that has the ability to transfer its communication to other parallel lives, such as you. You follow me?
That was pretty quick what you just said. I'm sorry.
The idea that you are dealing with an aspect of yourself that from the oversoul has created a life in that parallel time frame that has the ability to communicate consciously with other aspects of itself, those aspects in other parallel dimensions such as yourself that are willing to receive the communication.
Yes, okay. I understand.
So in that, let us say, life, in that universe, in that parallel reality, now this is actually a misnomer, but you are that doctor. But it is not you. It is that portion of the oversoul that is both the doctor and you.
I understand. May I ask you something else? You said that portion or aspect of ones that are willing to receive.
Yes.
Okay, if this is happening, then is there something that I can do to serve him? Or
First of all, that you have received is a service. First of all, that you have acknowledged is a service, for it allows that individual to expand his awareness and your awareness so that there can be a link-up of all the fragments of the total consciousness in all parallel realities. Being of service in whatever way your imagination so delineates, you can utilize the information to allow the information to allow the individual in that sense to channel through, if you wish, or to simply utilize what you can learn from that individual and apply that knowledge here. All of those ideas can be of service. It is up to you. What you prefer, what excites you, will be of service to that individual. The fact that you are accepting the contact is service itself. Thank you.
Bashar.
You.
Is that link up between the two? Is that the quote-unquote me that I will not allow myself to realize at this point in time?
Not so much directly that, but the idea of the future you can be in this universe. What do you imagine you are not allowing yourself to become?
Well, I would assume that I already am. In fact, I already am. But I'm not allowing myself to become.
What are you not allowing yourself to become? You must have some concept of what it is.
Yeah, I do. I'm just trying to phrase it.
Phrase it however you wish.
That's what I'm doing.
All right. Then you're not trying.
Okay. One who completes many cycles of action very quickly.
One who completes many cycles of action quickly. Yeah. Define a cycle of action.
Start, change, stop. Many of you have heard of that.
Start, change, stop.
The
But you are doing that every moment that you exist.
True.
So what are you looking for that would be different from that?
The gifts that I turn away on a daily basis.
Turn away. What gifts?
The gifts that I give to myself. The gifts of life that I present to myself and I might turn away.
How do you turn them away? Are you saying you do not act upon opportunities that you bring to yourself?
That's correct.
All right. How does it serve you to act on the opportunities that you do act upon? All the ones that you do not turn away.
It enables me to have more time or devote more energy to becoming a more enlightened, fuller person.
How and why do you assume, though it is a very valid way to do it, that you cannot do that also by acting upon the opportunities you bring to yourself?
Well, that was my point.
But in this way, what are you saying you would gain that would be different by acting than what you are already doing when you do act? If you are recognizing that you are still, in your terms, gaining enlightenment based upon what you do act upon, why are you regretting the ones you do not?
Well, before this evening, I didn't realize I didn't realize the mechanism at all. So I'm still exploring it.
Oh, are you having a good time in all this?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, very good. Then in this way, there is no need for remorse at all, of course.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
No.
Thank me.
You're welcome.
Bashar?
Okay.
It seems like we have gotten into a situation where we forget our past lives. I guess the group here, this planet. Does your planet, when they have the children, do they remember their past lives and they fully retain?
They can, but that is not the point of our civilization, to remember our past lives.
What about the information they've learned, or the skills, or things like
All information to us that is necessary to be there will be there in the moment it is needed. The idea that you will find in your acceleration into fourth density is that not only will you not need to remember your past lives, you will not need to remember the past of this life. You will know what you need to know in the moment you need to know it. Memory will be recognized for what it is. Creation in the now moment. Anything you are calling a memory, you are still creating in the present. You are only making an attachment that it comes from the past. It doesn't. It comes from now.
Memory itself does,
Yes. Therefore, you will find that many of you will begin to exhibit one of the symptoms of fourth density transformation. You will begin to forget your past. Judging that you have a past worth forgetting is what keeps it in your memory.
Right. One other question.
Thanks.
You mentioned earlier about the fact that every death is suicide.
In an overall fundamental definition.
Is there a way of actually leaving the body without leaving the body and having it still alive, where it's,
You mean astral projection?
Well, no, I mean on a permanent basis where you wouldn't be killing the body.
Why would the body be alive? The only way you can leave it and the body be alive is if someone else takes it over, what you call a walk-in.
So you could actually exchange that.
Oh, yes.
What about the coma situation?
Many individuals in this way obviously are still attached to their body by one way or another, one means or another, one reason, one purpose or another.
You could have bodies.
They can see.
Understand that in what you call further on in the fourth density reality, it will not be uncommon for there to be very few bodies physically upon the planet that many souls will share in and out, off and on. Because you will not need to maintain a constant existence in physical reality. And then when you transfer from fourth to fifth, no existence in physical reality anymore at all.
Bashar?
Does this answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, then you.
Didn't mean to interrupt. I have a question also that I'd like to ask you. When you speak of the fourth
Density.
Density, thank you. That's not the same as the plane that you're talking
Yes,
about.
in a sense, it is. You are accelerating into another plane of existence, another state of awareness.
So in other terms, you could say the fourth plane when you talk about your...
You can, yes.
Okay.
Does that clarify the idea? It is a state of existence in which you, in a sense, see through the illusion of the third plane. You follow me?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. One moment. Male.
Yes, thank you. Last week...
Then you. Female.
Last week I chose not to come here simply because I was attracted to stay home.
Yes.
Thanks, John. You're a great audience. Simplest joke. Boy. Now, normally, well, for the past year and a half, about a year almost, I've been attracted to come, and just this was strange that I was attracted to stay home. And I was kind of wondering why that was, but I wasn't being too analytical about it. I just felt like staying home.
All right.
Yeah. However, I thought, well, the reason that I'm feeling this way will manifest if I just continue to live.
Yes.
So I continued to live, and the reason that I chose to stay home has not specifically manifested. Can you help me with that?
It manifested so blatantly and so simply, you didn't recognize it.
So what was that?
Thank you.
You chose to stay home. It is simply a matter of the opportunity of you allowing yourself to know you have a choice.
Well, that's true, but
It's more complex than that.
I'm not saying it's more complex. I'm saying I already have that lesson learned. I know that my choices are very much my own. So when
one moment.
Okay.
You are making the assumption that already having a lesson learned means you do not have the choice of exercising it again.
But I didn't need to.
It is not a matter of needing to. It is a matter of that is what you desired. It does not matter that you know you can make choices. That does not mean you cannot continue to make choices.
And I do continue to make choices. Every time I come here, it's just as much a choice to come here as it was to stay home.
Right, and that is the whole point. That is all there is to it. That is all there is to it.
See, I don't believe that.
Aha. Then what do you believe?
Well, I believe possibly instead of making a choice to
I am
there,
goading you, you know.
Undoubtedly.
All right. I just wanted that to be clear.
I don't know why, but I'm thinking that perhaps it was not so much a choice to stay there rather than a choice not to come here.
That will do.
So, if there was a choice not to come here, what was it that I was choosing to stay away from?
Thank you,
Well, I'm not asking you, Eric. Perhaps you can shed some light on this, Bashar.
Maybe you thought I would bore you. Maybe you knew that I would have nothing to say that evening that would be of interest to you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I believe that this is something that I haven't fully consciously pinpointed. That's why I'm asking you to reflect that if
I am, to the best of the ability of the co-creation we are creating, I am.
Okay, let me ask you this. Of course, not having been here last week, I didn't know what I was, quote, missing, unquote, or what I wasn't going to co-create with you in the group. I did find out that you all took a trip up to your spacecraft. It did hit me in such a way that I thought, well, maybe I specifically stayed away in order not to experience that.
Maybe.
But I don't know why.
You know what?
What?
Me neither. Does that surprise you?
Yes and no.
Oh, why yes, why no? One moment. Every idea that you are present to hear has something to do with you, or you wouldn't hear it.
Right.
There is no such thing as a boring interaction, unless you are simply not willing to apply the same questions and statements to yourself to see how they apply. Catch my drift?
Yeah, maybe.
Thank you. Why yes, why no?
Okay, it doesn't surprise me because I know that you can perceive what's going on in my space, or however you want to term it, to the degree that I'm communicating with you at those levels.
Yeah.
I'm not always consciously aware of how much I am communicating to you on those levels. So if you say, no, you don't know why, it's I'm not surprised because I realize, well, obviously I'm not communicating it even though I'm not aware of how much I am communicating. So does this answer both yes and no?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Okay, there's one other thing here. A couple of weeks ago, I asked you about my experience in being attracted to one of our aircraft and knowing that it had some relationship to my future energy that I have toward perceiving spacecraft.
May I interrupt you for a moment?
Please do.
All right. Maybe, just maybe, only maybe, this may shed some light, as you said.
Please.
In your imagination right now,
yes,
is there one thing, or let us say, what is the strongest thing that you could imagine that you could come face to face to that you would not want to come face to face to? What pops into your imagination? Anything at all?
Something that I would not want to come face to face to?
What is the strongest thing you would not want to come face to face to?
Oh, it's like it's about 7 feet tall, and it's green and slimy and big and huge, and has tentacles like snakes.
Are you saying that that is the thing that would truly, truly be the most fearful thing you could ever face? Truly the most fearful?
Well, when you asked me the question, that was the first thing that came to mind.
All right.
I could probably search around and come up with something else.
No.
But when
I am asking you another question. I am not asking you to invalidate the first one.
Okay.
I am simply asking you another question.
Well, you know, I asked you about my fears and whether I was... I felt that I was quite fearless, and indicated that
I know what you mean.
Okay. And I forgot to ask you the second part of the question that week that I asked the question, and I was like, was I fooling myself in believing I was fearless, or was there something I'm truly...
Thank you. Again, by stating that I know what you mean, I am simply recognizing that you know that you always contain the probability of expressing fear, but that you choose to recognize fear as your friend. And in that way, you can say you are fearless.
I didn't completely follow that.
Always, you will contain the possibility of being fearful.
Yes.
Always. But if you choose to recognize your fear as your friend, you will never manifest the negative effect that you normally call fear. And in that way, you can say you are fearless.
True. Well, in fact, I have looked at this concept and realized that if something occurs, if I experience something that I create the idea of fear, I am able to look at that fear and go, oh, I'm feeling this fear, but not allow it to create negative effects on me. In fact, I created an incident a few years ago in which I guess some kind of entity was in my living room hanging around my overhead light fixture, and as I approached the entity, I was co-creating the idea of it flowing fear flows at me.
Yeah.
And I was going, this is really interesting. I'm co-creating fear with it, but I was not fearful. I was not creating any sort of sense of negative manifestation as a result. I was just kind of enjoying the sensations of the fear.
Yes.
And from this, I derived that I truly was fearless in that I would never respond in a way that would be negative to this emotion of fear.
Oh, very good. May I thank you for this wonderful interaction and remind you that this is all quite beside the point. But in this way, it is beside the point on purpose. For in this way, the idea of what it is you are asking is not so much that you are avoiding anything here, nor specifically being attracted to anything at home. It is one of those things in that way as we perceive it that is simply part of the actual fabric of the way you do things, in the sense that you had a good reason for simply not traveling the course you may normally travel, because it may have led to things that simply would not serve you in that way. These ideas, following your equational paths, are not necessarily something that will stand out to let you know specifically what it was you may have been avoiding or being attracted to in that way, but simply are your innate knowingness that simply taking the path you may have taken was not the path you need to take that night, and it would not have served you the best, because there may have been the opportunity for interactions in this way that would not represent the vibration of the reality you are. These things are not prone to stand out, simply because they are a part and parcel of the way you go about doing things. Is any of this coming through?
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that, because it did. I did conceive of that at one time. It was last Wednesday. I conceived of that. I had forgotten. Thank you for reminding me of that.
You are welcome. Thank you for being open enough to allow me to remind you.
Certainly. Can I ask you one other thing? You have referred to the way I do things. Now, I know how I do things, but I would appreciate your viewpoint.
Well, I was not being specific.
Okay.
I was simply saying that an individual in life will simply go about doing things one way or another. And many of the going about and doing the things in and of themselves will represent paths that are taken for a reason, though they will not surface consciously, otherwise you'll be too busy watching every step you make. This is why these things do not make themselves evident when you choose to do one thing or another. You may result in a realization of knowing you have made a choice, but the realizing as to why is not really very paramount, because it was only a choice made to allow yourself to take the path of least resistance.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bashar?
Yes.
Last week after my channeling class, I had a dream in which, in the dream, it wasn't clear whether Joseph or myself was channeling an entity called Bona. And since I am just beginning the class, I have not yet discovered whether I will be channeling this entity or not.
Then we will let you find out.
Okay. This week, at the end of the class, I dreamed that I was channeling Monocles, who I know someone else is channeling.
All right.
Can you shed some light on that?
Only again that it does still, in our perception, represent the idea of one oversoul attempting to manifest conscious reality and conscious recognition of its existence in all of its fragments.
Okay. Thank you.
May I ask you all a question?
Yeah.
Yes. Has there been any increase in frequency in your dream realities of the inclusion of what you would call cats?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That is all. Next.
Is there anything or type of physical exercise that you recommend in opening ourselves up to a higher level of knowingness other than the imagination?
Oh, other than that one.
Well, no.
Other than the only thing that encompasses everything you need.
So just imagining it and thinking that it is so, knowing that it is so, is...
Now understand that you do not have to strain and struggle to know it is so. Daydream, enjoy it. That, in a sense, is knowing it is so. Enjoying it, going along for the ride. Just having the experience and letting yourself experience it is knowing it is so. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay!
There's an entity named as Yvonne that I've dreamt about several times, and the name, even daydreaming as it comes up. And a friend of mine, we were playing around the other day, and she took my ring and she sort of played with it. She said, "Don, who's Yvonne?" And I've been playing with an Yvonne, and I have no idea who it is.
This will be a case where there is recommended a specific methodology by which you may wish to play around with, as long as you allow yourself to maintain a lightness of attitude, a playful attitude, and not be steeped in what you call the negativity that has been attached to this specific method, that you can utilize to allow there to be a clearer communication in that way. This is unusual as a recommendation at this time, since it is such a specific tool, but like any tool, it is valid, and we are simply sensing that the recommendation comes with a recognition that it may be valid for certain portions of you. You can begin it if you wish, you do not have to, and you can end it any time you wish. But the recommendation is that you can find yourself in closer contact with this consciousness if you use the device that you call a Ouija board. We will let you play with that.
Can you explain exactly what the chakras are in terms of energy fields and what content?
In a sense, they represent the doorways or gateways through which you are and to which you are connected to the matrix of all that is. It is the crossing points, the fulcrum points, the reinforced overlapping points in the energy pattern that you are that represents where all probable realities come together to create the flow into your specific universe that creates the reality you perceive yourselves to be. All chakras are doorways that contain all probable realities. They are transfer stations, if you wish.
Are there truly colors associated with the different ones?
Yes, vibrational understandings. Although now they are beginning to blend. In this transformational age, they are not so specific anymore, though they still retain some degree of specificity. They are all beginning to contain all colors. Thank you.
Bashar.
Yes!
Yes,
Yes,
First, I'm curious. Why would we dream of cats?
In this way, they are symbolically representative of an animal that consciously exists within third and fourth density simultaneously.
But why would we dream of those?
Because as you allow animal consciousness to reflect to you changes going on within your own consciousness, many of you may begin to be making associations with that animal more and more in your dreams. As you find they are passing through your dream realities all the time, you may simply allow yourself to recognize them and follow them to different portions of your consciousness. The animals have opted to function this way for you. Many of you may begin to be listening to them in that way specifically. Not that you have to, but many of you may have associations with that animal in that way, sensing the power of their ability to bridge both levels at the same time. We have discussed this ability has existed within certain civilizations on your planet, the American Indian culture being one of them, wherein they recognized consciously that they existed really in physical and non-physical reality simultaneously, and many different dimensions of existence. This is what the cat realizes all the time.
We also see this reality within rocks and plants.
Oh, of course. I'm not saying it has to be a cat. Just that it is something that does represent a common symbol within this particular society.
Well, a funny thing happened last week.
Oh, funny things. I love funny things. More synchronicity, yes?
Yes. My son got a coupon in the mail, which is unusual because we very seldom get mail.
All right.
But the coupon said good for one free can of cat food.
Oh.
So he went to the store and got a free can of cat food. So we put it on the shelf.
Yes.
So I said, this has something to do with what's coming.
Yes.
So we left it there.
Yes.
And then a few days later, a friend dropped off a small cat.
Yes.
But it couldn't eat the cat food because it was so small. It hardly had its eyes open. I had to feed it with a dropper.
All right.
Well, we had it a few days.
Yes.
And we didn't know whether to keep it or not. So I realized that you never really keep animals.
No.
They choose you. They come into this space and then they leave. So the cat went back to where he came from.
Yes.
And we still have the can of cat So I guess there's another one coming. But I've always found that in your I do this in present time.
Right.
Most Indian people did. It's called Indian time.
Right.
It's when it gets done and when you get there, you know.
Yes.
And
all things being the same.
yeah. And so It's the same with, you have things of your, as you call your past, which are mementos, mementos like photographs, but you also, in your present, have things of your future.
Yes.
But you're not really cognizant of that until the future occurs, and then you say, oh, that's why I had that in my face.
In a sense, yes.
So what you do is you relate the two.
Yes.
So, this cat thing you're talking about,
yes.
I do have a feeling that cats are coming around, but what has that got to do with this reality?
Simply in this way again, since the cats are in this reality, and since your consciousness recognizes their ability, many of you have placed, even if it is only in what you call in the Western civilization, a superstitious attachment to them, it is still a subconscious recognition of what they represent as the ability to be on two planes at once.
Mm-hmm.
Does that clarify it?
Yeah, it does clarify.
Fine.
Bashar.
Yes.
Bashar, these vibrational rates, would you liken those to, in a sense, a strobe when one is perceiving and then it's off, that period between creation and non-creation, creation, non-creation, whereas the greater the density, the more it's aware of the on period?
In a sense, yes. You can put it that way. And it is not so much that the idea is that there's non-creation in between, but that all other realities exist in between each other's moments.
Okay, one other thing.
So to speak.
Yeah. In the formulation of meaning of words, the actual symbols themselves, the shape of the letters and such, someone expressed to me once something very, what was the word he used? Occult.
All right. Hidden.
Mm-hmm. Existing in whatever range it exists in, a meaning plate, a plate where the shape of the letter, the name, the individual's name, would intersect and like a J, for example, would go through existence and eternity, and does that plate, is that a known thing?
Yes, although it will vary from reality to reality. From universe to universe.
Okay, so it's an arbitrary thing. It's not a universally established...
It is universal to some extent, but there is more to the idea of universe than what you are labeling.
Yeah. Some letters, some very, like Zoroaster or Zorro or Zeus, all these very specific names with very unusual, powerful...
vibrational reality in general in your archetypal mass consciousness to a certain extent. Other universes do not see it the same way.
Oh, I see. What function does that serve? Is that sort of transfer of it's symbolic?
Yes, symbolic of the idea that everything is a vibrational pattern and that you can reclaim, so to speak, the essence of the power in the vibration that you are.
All right.
That way.
Could one say...
That is the original usage of what you call incantations. Magic. The recognition of the vibrational signature of a specific reality, the ability to unlock it and change it to another vibrational signature.
Okay.
Or so-called abracadabra.
Right. One thing about symbols, there's an aspect of me which I can occasionally integrate with, and which I am simultaneously and divided with at times. That I'm committed to symbols. I use the car. For example, a Cadillac would represent elegance or prestige. A house would represent this or that.
Depends upon the current notion.
Okay. There are aspects of me which will not integrate with me because I am in creation. I am in those realms of creation and destruction. In symbols. I need symbols rather than the raw materials.
You have chosen to be physically in existence. Therefore, the entire reality that you are experiencing through your senses is a symbol, yes.
Okay.
By definition, you are using symbols.
All right. The question is I'm asking, because I use symbols instead of the raw materials, would evolution for me be outgrowing those tools? Is that
That is a general concept for everyone. But again, it is not that you need to outgrow them while you are still using them. You will, in your terms, outgrow them when you don't need them.
Okay. And I find that the impact of words, the essence of words.
Yeah.
I'm a very, very slow reader, but when I see a word, it's just like 12 dimensions, or many dimensions open up for me.
That is your way of exploring this universe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bashar.
Familiar.
Yes, I've always been very interested in cats, and I have some questions I'd like to explore.
Brief.
Yeah. When cats curl up and go to sleep, they are really exploring out of the body. Is this?
Sometimes they are, even when they are walking around.
All right.
They have that ability.
Yes. I had a cat recently. I had her for several years, actually, and we were quite good friends. And then she died, and I was very grief-stricken when I realized that she was gone. And then I found her body. It was just like she curled up and went to sleep.
All right.
I still, I really don't think of her as dead because I still feel her around, and I talk to her.
Life is eternal.
Yes. I'm wondering, what was her reason for leaving at that specific time?
What was going on in your life?
Well, I had a lover.
Yes.
And we were exploring, closeness
Yes.
on many levels, actually.
Yes.
And it occurred to me that she felt, I kept getting this idea that she was going to die.
Yes.
But I didn't know if I was creating that or if I was getting that from her. I couldn't.
Obviously both.
Yeah.
It was a co-agreement in that way. Did it allow you to recognize that you could now begin to function in the same manner and did not need the symbol of the cat's presence?
Thank you. Yes, I've thought of that.
All right. Then you have it.
All right.
Thank you.
Bashar.
You!
I wanted to ask you, what can we learn from our dreams? What can
My goodness. What can't you learn?
Okay, maybe then you could help me interpret some. For instance, a dream I had last night had to do with a feeling that I had, the family that I had was not the correct family, in the sense of feeling foreign to me and feeling like there was some kind of mix-up, and that's
all right.
Okay.
Can be a sensation that in a sense you are dealing with the belief system that you are not natural to this location.
Okay, that's very real to me, but is there any way to expand upon that? I mean, knowing you shouldn't be here doesn't tell you where you should be.
Oh, no. That is not what we meant. There is no such thing as being where you should not be, by definition. It cannot happen. You chose to be here. That is why you are here. So obviously, in a sense, you should be here. It is not that you do not belong in that sense. It is that you believe you do not belong. You're not allowing yourself to recognize that you obviously made a choice in being where you are. Allowing yourself to recognize the idea in your imagination of what it is you have chosen to be here for. Then, in being of service in that way, it will begin to feel more natural to you. In this way, it is not a detrimental thing in your dream. It is simply the recognition that you have things to do. But that you have made attachments to the things you are going to be doing to a time and a place that is elsewhere. You have given yourself reason for being where you are by basing it upon reasons you created in another time and place, so to speak. You are simply now becoming aware of those reasons, as you begin to explore the idea of the services you will be providing, those awakenings will come to bear. They will come to the forefront of your consciousness. This does not mean you are in the wrong place. It simply is the beginning of the recognition of from when and where you made the original agreement to be where you are. You follow me?
Not as completely as I'd like to, but I kind of get the drift.
All right, then you have it as completely as you need to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you! Guys!
Yeah, Bashar, I'm a pregnant mother with my baby due to arrive in a few weeks. And throughout this is my third pregnancy, and this time I just didn't feel like dealing with the medical lines. So I skipped that.
All right.
Which feels fine with me.
Okay.
And now the baby's due in 2 weeks, and I still don't feel like going and finding a doctor.
All right.
And I don't know why I'm saying this, really.
Yes, you do. And everyone knows it.
I don't know.
Oh, come now.
Well, actually, what I'd like to do is just go ahead and have a baby.
Have a good time.
Happy
birthday.
Oh, that's good. And another thing, this might be a little embarrassing, that's why I'm going to say it. But well...
You are devaluing what you have to say.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, in my second pregnancy, I had a very vivid dream that I had kids. I gave birth to kittens. And I remember in the dream, this was fine. I thought, kids, that's fine. It was fine, so I thought, let's see, now I've got to call Mom. Oh, no. Mom had kittens, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, now in the third pregnancy, which is this pregnancy, about a month ago, I had a very vivid dream that I gave birth and the baby came right through the stomach. There was no physical stuff. It just appeared. He was a big white rabbit.
Is your name Alice?
Rabbit symbolized.
Big white ones can symbolize the idea that you already ascribe to what you call your myth.
Wait, I don't get
Through
it.
the looking glass. Puka, very good.
I don't get it. I've heard it again.
All right.
You mean
It is going within, going into the inner world in this way, and the idea of the archetypal Tuka is a reflection of archetypal animal consciousness, other portions of the subconsciousness which manifest themselves in forms that represent different portions of your consciousness that you are now in touch with that are in a sense more magical than you are willing to believe can exist in the normal day-to-day existence.
Oh, okay.
They bring you from the seen into the unseen world and make it seeable. And the idea of viewing your children as cats and rabbits are both reflections of the fact that you know that these children are coming now and will know exactly who they are and will remind you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's very real to me.
Then you are simply using symbols that represent their knowing ability to exist in more than one level at a time.
Oh, that's neat.
In other words, in this way, you may find that what you call your second child may exhibit some of the detachment of the cat. The rabbit child may exhibit some of the intense curiosity and burrowing into the depths of the consciousness.
Oh.
How about the first one?
I didn't have dreams where the animals were here.
What did you have?
Gosh, I don't know. She's very
If you were to attach in your imagination without thinking about it the idea of a symbolic animal to the child, what would you pick?
Yeah, bird.
All right, thank you. That will speak for itself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, one little question.
Okay.
I once had a squirrel show up my room. What do squirrels signify?
You're nuts. But they can signify the idea to some degree of the storage and then the bringing to the surface of ideas that have been buried.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, he showed up one night in our house. The squirrel materialized and then dematerialized. Of course, at the time I was coming out of a religion that considers when you come out you're a squirrel.
Thank you. For your creative expression, yes.
I just wanted to ask you, are there any particular methods that...
More methods.
Methods which would enhance the accuracy of dream interpretation?
Yes. Honesty with yourself. Willingness to not fear. And above and beyond, allowing yourself to recognize that you can treat everything, every object, every person, every emotion, every scenario in the dream as you. And ask yourself what it feels like to be that idea, and it will be very clear as to what it means.
Just that's it.
That's it.
What it feels like.
Ask yourself, I am this idea in my dream. And what I have to say to myself is very simple. You are everything in your dream. Be everything. Discontinue to remove things and place them outside yourself. Be everything, and the meaning will be clear.
Okay, actually, that's the way I have been doing it, but at times I find that I'll come up against a symbol, maybe not a particular person, but a symbol in which I try to gain a feeling for that symbol, but either the feeling doesn't come through.
Many symbols that do not relate very closely to your physical reality are simply expressions of the fact that in your dream reality you are on a plane or level of existence that has very little to do with your physical reality, and your physical ego picks the symbol that most closely represents the experience, but many times cannot find a symbol that would really, really represent it.
And it's just not important to...
Not in that way. Simply trust that you have absorbed it on whatever level you need to and go on.
Oh,
Yes.
I have a question about what a ruby signifies, because I have a recollection I used to wear a ruby necklace, and I don't recall the exact meaning of it, but I know it was very important.
Did it rest over your heart?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Where did it rest?
Right here.
Over your
Over my heart.
heart. Well. Well.
So.
So, it has connections to your vibration in the chakra of the... Well, it isn't the chakra of your big toe. Are you having a good time?
Yeah, I was just curious about that. I know.
Just curious? No such thing as idle curiosity. Follow your curiosity and trust your imagination. It represents the vibration of the chakra of your heart. Oh.
Thank you, Bashar.
One moment. Thank me? What for?
Well, for your feedback.
Feedback. All right. Now, can you allow yourself to feel the vibration, the deep, pulsing vibration of the ruby? Can you feel it? Can you imagine it? Can you see it? Can you sense it? The vibrant red. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
All right. What does it feel like?
It feels like life.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Do you feel it strongly in certain portions of your body?
More like all over.
All right. Is it warm?
Yes.
All right.
And it is strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then follow that pulse. Pulse, pulse, pulse.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned cats. I've been
I
dreaming-
did.
In dreams.
Oh, I suppose, maybe in passing. All right. Go on.
I've been dreaming a lot about lions.
Oh.
Big cat.
Big cat.
And I have a long history of dreaming about jaguars.
Yes.
But the lion...
That is a connection to a past life. Go on.
The dreams in which I experienced the lion
Yes.
were also with a series of dreams that involved jewels.
Yes.
Like jewels, as if
Like
jewels had been
royalty.
stolen.
Yes.
Well,
Go ahead.
yes, they like all the colors of the jewels,
Yes.
the chakra colors,
Yes.
and as if they had been stolen from someplace and they were dropped, always like in the grass, in brilliant green grass.
All right.
And I was wondering if you could give me some idea of what.
Do you have any attachment also to any gold ornamentation? Maybe more specifically with what you call the jaguar.
That I'm conscious of.
All right. How about the sun?
The sun. I mean, not consciously, but when you said it, it
What
vibrates with
did it spark in your imagination?
radiant energy.
And where were you receiving this radiant energy?
Third eye and, well, at the base of my neck.
All right. Were you standing in a particular location?
In the jungle.
Oh, very good. Anything else?
It seems as though the sun is coming through, streaming through the vegetation.
All right. Is there anything nearby besides the animal? Where do you live?
Jungle.
Define your home. Think of home. What do you see?
I just see what I would associate as temples.
Very good. What took you so long? You know where you are.
Aztec.
Very good.
Is that the lions and the jaguar, or is the lion separate?
Lions are more Egyptian. But there is a similarity and a parallelity to the two lives.
And the jewels are part of that?
Yes, since you were in a sense priestly or royal in both. Also, you were a thief.
A royalty?
In other lives, in similar situations, you did the polarity idea, the royalty, the thief.
Fabulous.
I remember two dreams in which the lions, the first dream, we were driving through a jungle, and the driver of the car was also like a circus leader. He brought a female lion, and then in another dream he brought a male lion to heal them both. Can you give me any insight into the healing, or what the meaning of those symbols is?
Is there some and you wish to go back to touch, to breathe the atmosphere, the dust, the earth, to touch?
I think the only land that I have that kind of desire to go back to is Greece.
All right. You can begin there and retrace your steps.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bashar? What is it about so many of us who are allergic to cats?
Again, and quite obviously, it can simply be one reason, can simply be the rejection of the blending. The rejection of your ability to extend your senses into all those different levels. So you reject the symbol that represents that ability.
But physically, I mean, I really do have a love personally.
Right.
I mean, consciously, but I still can't. Is that
when you allow yourself more opportunity to experience the reality of living in that atmosphere comfortably, then the atmosphere they have around and about them in their auric fields will not bother you.
Okay.
Once you make it your own.
I want to share something real fast. I was on the beach the other morning, and for a considerable amount of time, I've been fairly broke. And I was on the beach running the other morning, and I realized that the lack of money, because I'm in Malibu, and I've been living there for a while, as you know. It occurred to me that if I had money, I'd be out playing and having a good time and going places. And because I don't have money, I go to the beach every morning and I do things there and I enjoy what's there.
Right.
And I really, it was like a total revelation.
Oh, thank you very much for recognizing that you are exactly as abundant as you need to be to go to the places that you have decided to enjoy for now. Thank you! Yo.
Yes, I wanted to know if there's any difference in the symbology of a black panther to other cats.
Obviously, otherwise it would not be a different cat.
What is it?
You tell me.
Secrecy?
Very good. One idea attributed to the past. Many civilizations utilizing that symbol to represent the occult or the mystic arts. And it is also why you feel still so connected to the idea of having a black cat cross your path. For it represents the stepping over of a threshold. The crossing of a path in that way that leads you to the portions of yourself that have been hidden for so long that you simply usually associate a fearful attachment to, but do not have to have one.
I see. Well, I found myself I've never been allergic to cats, but I did experience being allergic to one particular cat.
Okay.
But lately I've found that other cats that I've come in contact with I haven't been allergic to.
All right.
Is there anything about that one particular cat?
What was it?
What do you mean, what was it?
What kind of a cat?
I don't have any idea.
What did it look like?
Black and white splotches. It could have had something to do possibly with the owner of the cat, is it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe representational of the polarity between you.
Yes, that's what it was.
Black and white.
Between the owner and
yes.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you very much.
Bashar?
For me.
Second, please.
Back there, you.
If I may,
If you
going back
may.
to Dr. Kirk.
Yay.
I feel kind of stupid about this, but...
Stupid. Another devaluation of your worth. You are a gift of sharing. You are equal and valid to everything and anything. I'll let that one slide. Just to give you, as you say, a break. Perhaps the doctor can repair it.
Well, when we first met, and we talked, and he would do healings.
Right.
It was just great, and I had no fear at all.
Right.
And then a woman that I work with has been encouraging me to work with him, and that started making me feel afraid.
Why?
Because all of a sudden it wasn't just between him and I.
Oh, put on the spot, were you?
Yeah. That was between him and I.
So?
So I was thinking...
yes, do tell.
Well, if I would like to not feel put on the spot...
All right, your choice.
What should I do? Just...
Not be on the spot. Not have to feel like you are expected to prove anything. To recognize you can't anyway. Just like I can't. Just like no one can. No one can prove anything to anyone. You cannot even prove you exist to anyone else but yourself. For all the individuals that you may be happily convincing of your existence that are nodding your head, nodding their heads in unison to yours, I exist, yes, you exist. All of those individuals you are so busy convincing could be hallucinations. So in this way, recognize, since you can't prove anything to anyone, do not feel like you have to. All right? What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what?
Okay, I'll agree to that.
You do not have to. Why should you agree to that? Why do you want to agree to that?
Because I would like to think that that's right. I would like to not feel put on the spot, and I'd like to think that you don't have to prove. I know it's not proving anything. It's just for all of a sudden, if there were to be somebody else to be there, even though sometimes.
Yes.
Well, it's like one time when I was caught off guard, and it helped another person, and then I was really glad. And then afterwards, all of a sudden, I thought, oh my God, what if they want me to do it again, and then I'll have to, or do you know what I mean?
Yes, but every moment is a new moment and is never repeated. Even if you think you are doing the same thing again, you never are. So take the expectation off yourself. Those interactions are based upon emotional connections. When the desire is there, what needs to happen will happen. If it does not happen, it does not need to. Thank you.
Sure.
You.
That was good.
Going back to Black Panthers myself. A week or 10 days ago, I had an experience in my sleep, at least during the night, where I woke up to the sensation, to the physical sensation of a cat sort of stepping on my body. If you've ever slept with cats, you might know how they press their front paws gently into you. And
I have not slept with a cat, but I have had animals in that way touch my body, yes.
So I woke up to this and opened my eyes expecting to see a cat, my friend's cat, except that I wasn't in her bed. I was in my own, and the sensation was still there with my eyes open on my body. So I closed my eyes again and realized that they were the sensations of a very large cat that reminded me of a Black Panther that has been in my mind for at least 10 or 15 years.
Yes.
That I've been waiting for, or even looking for.
Yes.
Black Panther with emerald eyes. What was that experience? I mean, what level of my imagination was that happening on?
In a sense, you would call it astral, in that your imagination in the astral level is immediately real reality, and you translated it in physical terms to be able to feel a sensation. Follow me?
So it wasn't symbolic to me.
Well, it was both. All reality is all symbolic. But in your terms, it was real.
Is this the Black Panther that I've known before in a former life?
It has taken many forms in many different lives. You have known it always. It has served you in many different universes. You have brought it with you to this one, and it takes the form that most represents what it needs to bring in you to the surface. It has been your companion forever.
Does the name Ronnie resonate at all with this? Something totally separate?
At this time, we are only perceiving it as an offshoot, not something that directly represents the same vibration.
The panther is an offshoot of Ronnie, or the other way around?
Other way round. And not directly an offshoot of the panther, but simply an offshoot of the energy, a connection from another direction altogether.
Is Ronnie connected to the Star of Bethlehem?
To some degree. That is all we will say.
Okay, another quick question. That's wonderful. Thank you. I have an exciting curiosity.
Yay.
About the way you laugh or don't laugh. And I experience your laugh inside, except that the body doesn't express it, except to the extent of pulling your cheeks in a little bit. And
because laughing is centering, and it would break the connection. You follow me?
No, not quite.
If I were to completely center, I would not be projecting into this channeling. So there is an automatic, in your terms, suppression in that way, though you can feel the energy.
Right, okay.
Recognize whether or not you experience the so-called vocalizations to you to be serious or not. I am always laughing. For I enjoy you all very much.
Thank you.
Bashar?
Yes.
In this life persistently, I have known that I have not good control of the body I'm currently presenting tonight.
You have known that, have you?
The control that I possess in its best
is flawless.
Yeah, but it's also that of a giant cat in my form, upright, 2 feet, short legs, with a magnificent tail. that comes from a race of warrior cats, more humanized than, and I can still feel my tail. I have the distinct remembrance of being captured and the tail cut as a degrade for my losing the war. But tonight I can sit and feel the muscles that would wrap that tail around my neck.
So how does this association serve you?
Well, I'm looking. Are my people? I feel those were more my people than where I'm at now.
Again,
and
not
are those
possible.
People still here?
Yes, of course. All universes are right here, right now.
Then I can return to that people if I choose.
You are there now. And you are here for a purpose. You are not here to run away.
Well, I have no intentions, but I feel myself more as a teacher on this planet.
And a learner.
Oh,
Every teacher is a learner.
Yes, it's continual learning.
Yes. Then simply make the association so that you exist in both places at the same time. So that you can bridge the connection and allow yourself to be of service in both areas simultaneously.
Then there was a cat, or there is a cat race that you know of that's more humanoid than what we would consider cats.
It is not exactly what I would call a cat, but I know what you mean.
Okay. But the body is very real to me as my own personal body.
Okay. There
Thank
is
you.
and are such races. But again, it is not that they are, in your terms, derived from the idea of a cat, but there are similarities.
Well, I have the feeling of a lion that walks upright, more like a man.
Yes.
A large mane.
To some degree, yes.
A warrior teacher caste.
Yes.
Or type of people.
Yes.
And like my tail was a symbol of my pride and my authority.
That dimension and that race in that dimension exists. And it is right here, right now.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Bashar? Sure.
You.
What is the insect world about? I mean,
what it is about?
Is there an individual for every insect? Is there a being for every insect?
A being?
Yes, or a life force for every single insect?
Yes.
Okay. What type of life are they? What are they trying to express?
They're not trying to express anything. You may be trying to understand it.
Right.
They express many different things. Again, they are as reflections, symbolic to whatever meaning you ascribe to them in that way. They represent and recognize some of the mass conscious recognitions for why they are reflecting certain ideas. But in this way, simply allow your imagination and your own personal relationship to reflect to you what is pertinent for you.
Can I get that if I...
Of course. You can ask them, too.
Okay. Another question, just related. If I physically want to improve my eyes, let's say, how could I do that? Could I do that through imagination? Or
yes.
Could you give me
by first and foremost trusting that the reason they are the way they are is to allow you to sharpen other senses.
Very good.
Understand that you see perfectly clearly in your imagination, do you not?
Mm-hmm.
Then it is an opportunity to allow your imagination to be your physical reality, to live your dream.
Okay.
Merge the two, and you will see just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Bashar.
Yes.
Would you share a title with us for tonight?
Cats.
Thank you. Another question.
Tail of the cat. How about the tail of the cat? T-A-L-E.
That can be so.
She has to write it, so she likes cats.
But cats will do.
And another, if I may, another question.
No, you may not.
Oh.
What but you have to listen to me.
What does the Meshach represent?
Now, we have discussed to some degree the three ideas of the trinary system.
Right.
There is no need at this time to differentiate them, but simply take them as a triad.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
Briefly.
wanted to ask you if allergies, allergic responses, are manifestations of self-rejecting process.
Yes. All judgment. All of it.
Sure.
Yes.
When I relayed my question about my channeling, one of the elements in both of the dreams is that I'm confused about whether Joseph or myself are channeling those entities. Could you give me some insight into why I confuse whether Joseph channels or I'm channeling?
Why not both?
I guess I was thinking either or.
Instead of and.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm curious to know, I had a dream just the other night. It was very unusual, that's why I'm bringing it up. It was about a duck. A very large duck. It was mechanically made, but it was prettier and nicer than a real duck. It was in the water, and it was quacking away, and then there was a man there, and he was very excited. He was the person who created this duck.
Yes.
And I was just kind of curious if there was any kind of meaning in this.
Well, what are you luring yourself to with the decoy? What are you hunting for?
Myself.
In what aspect? In what way? In what portion of nature? In what form of blending?
My abilities, my essence. Yeah. Basically, myself beyond everything else. I mean, beyond like the creation of the universe or anything, just me.
There is no difference. You understand? Oh, thank you.
Okay.
There is more to this idea which we can discuss at another time.
All right.
Sure. There are, in your terms, seconds remaining for this interaction. Be brief.
I'll catch you next time.
Catch me now. Be
All
brief.
Right. All right. I find that the experience that I am a piece of myself remaining here in creation, and I'm trying to get through that eye of the needle beyond creation, beyond knowingness and such.
There is no such place as that which is beyond creation. Is no outside.
I don't agree.
There is
I'll acknowledge
no nothing. Answer this question, if you will.
All right.
Can you imagine non-existence?
From an inside the box point of view, I suppose that's impossible.
Very good.
I'm talking outside the box.
But then if you were outside the box, you would not know it, would you?
Would not know what, the box?
In this way, if you could become non-existent, you wouldn't know it.
Are we not non-existent to things we're not in?
There is nothing you are not in. Anything you are ever going to experience is going to be a part of creation, by definition. Otherwise, you wouldn't be experiencing it. That which you cannot experience is not a part of creation, but then you can never know it, because you can't experience it.
All right. These worlds called God the Nameless and such,
Right.
Worlds that will not be identified or defined or known.
That does not mean they are not a part of creation. Just because there is no definition in one realm or another does not mean it does not exist. Existence itself may not be definable in that way, but it is still creation.
They almost, as though it refuses to be defined. It refuses an identity, the confinement or restriction of the freedom by putting a word or such to it.
We understand the concept, and it has validity, but that still does not make it not a part of creation.
What's its relationship? Is it the...
It is creation itself.
It is the...
It is existence itself.
Okay. It is that which pervades all of creation.
Yes.
It's all of... Okay.
It is all that is.
All right.
That which is.
Okay. So there it is. It's the wholeness of the whole, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In this way, allow us to extend to each and every one of you our appreciation once again, and always and eternally, and our joy at the sharing that you allow yourself to be in this interaction with us. to allow us to learn of you and cherish what you are. We thank you for your reflections. We thank you for your creations. We thank you for your conviction. We extend our unconditional love to each and every one of you, individually and collectively. We bid you exciting dream lives. We bid you eternal nowness. And we bid you a fond and loving good evening. How did everything go?
Great. Thank you very much, Daryl.
Thank you.